I introduced this film as Executive Director of the Southcentre. The Southcentre is an intergovernmental independent think tank of the South. The Southcentre encourages South-South cooperation and ability of the countries of the South to negotiate with the North on matters of common concern such as development, investment, trade, and innovation and access to knowledge. This film is about what happens when health is privatized. When health is privatized, profit becomes the motivating force. The voice of the people is then drowned by the voice of pharmaceutical companies. Pharmaceutical companies use patents as a means of monopolizing knowledge and innovation that then is outside the reach of the people who cannot afford patented drugs. What this film shows is the effects of this on the ordinary lives of the people. Research that is focused on profit then becomes focused on illnesses of the rich people, including heart diseases and obesity, for example, but not the illnesses of the poor, such as tuberculosis. This film shows what happens especially when HIV/AIDS and tuberculosis are co-infected. Then there are no proper drugs for the people. Research and innovation must be the responsibility of the public authorities. Now that the situation with financial crisis has brought to light the problems with large corporations and privatized access to medicine, it's even more important than before that public authorities assume the responsibility for knowledge, research, innovation, and the health and care of the people. This film puts the message across very strongly in the words of the people who are affected by the profiteering corporations.
If I'm a person who stays in Kailicha who doesn't understand anything about patents, it still doesn't make sense to me. Why would an insane person sell life-saving medication in such a high price that people who need medication cannot afford it? For me, it doesn't make sense. The crisis of access to essential medicines really came to the front when we discovered that starting treatment with antiretroviral drugs to treat people living with AIDS was horribly expensive. We looked at that for the first time in 1999, when the price of antiretroviral triple therapy was between $10,000 to $15,000 per patient per year. And we looked into the reasons for that, and the reasons were that we mostly had to rely on single source because of patent monopolies. As soon as we were working in places where we could benefit from generic competition, or for example local production because of the absence of patents, the prices were much lower. Now in 2001, the Indian company Cipla announced, in a world where AIDS treatment cost around $10,000, that they could do it for $1 a day. And that sort of made us realize that it wasn't because it was horribly expensive to make these medicines, but it was really because of the patent monopolies that these prices were so high. And we begin to see that now for other medicines as well. We've also seen in countries where the patents did not exist, such as in Thailand at the time and in Brazil, and where the government decided to produce these medicines themselves, that they could achieve near universal access by doing so at very low cost. So that's how we began to understand the relation between patents, between monopolies and high drug prices, and consequences, huge access problems for people who couldn't afford it.
So a patent is a right conferred by the government in order to promote innovation. Essentially, a patent grants a monopoly over a period of time. Today is normally 20 years from the date of application of a patent. And this means that the owner of this title may exclude anybody from using the invention, from producing it, from commercializing it. So this confers a very significant market power.
There's been a period when the kind of things you could get a patent for have changed dramatically. It's now possible in some countries to get patents on things that were considered unpatentable before. There's all sorts of controversies in the area of patenting about what's an invention versus what's a discovery. Can you patent life forms? Can you patent the coating on a pill? Is that too trivial, or does that merit a patent? Is a new use of a drug a patent? In some countries it is, in some countries it's not considered a patentable invention. Can you invent the same thing more than once? That's sort of the second use patent question. So there's all these controversies about how big of a leap of inventiveness do you have to achieve before you can be granted a patent, or for what kinds of subject matter can you be granted a patent.
With the rise of new digital genetic and biotechnologies, whole new realms can now be subject to patents. Computer software, genetic sequences, chemical reactions, animals, plants, fabrics, and pharmaceutical drugs to treat HIV. In addition, the bar on what qualifies as an invention has been consistently lowered, while the monopoly rights acquired by the patent holder have strengthened.
And this has led to a major proliferation of patents in the United States and other countries. And just to give you an example, in the case of the United States, more than 180,000 patents are granted per year. And if you look at them carefully, including in the pharmaceutical sector, most of them really do not protect real inventions. They are minor changes over existing products or processes that do not reward a significant investment or innovation, and that may create, however, a significant problem in the market, because these patents are often aggressively used by the owners in order to make competitors' life difficult. And in some cases, this leads to patenting of some really bizarre developments. For instance, you can see a patent on a hat when applied to an animal, or a diaper when applied to a horse, a couple of plastic bands that you put on your mouth, and this will allow you to speak and to breathe but not to eat, and this is a device for control of weight. So in the cases of these patents, they are sometimes funny, so peculiar. But the problem is that the same standards of patentability, in particular the same evaluation of the inventive step, is used in order to assess patents in the field of pharmaceuticals or agrochemicals or other areas of economic and social importance.
My name is Hazel, and I grew up in Soweto. The last location in Soweto we called Naledi. We used to joke and say, "Are you scared of HIV?" Say, "I'm not scared of it," because we never had the information. The only two people knows in my family, it was my cousin and the friend of mine, who's still my friend even now, which he gave me support from day one until now. When I relate the story that I've got a positive result, my husband didn't understand. When I'm going to the doctor, I come back, the guy is already left to Natal, sold the house. I don't have close to where the house is locked. During the evening I waited, I find that there's new people staying in the house. It was like, hey. And the friend of mine was like, "No, don't worry, let's start looking for your health first. We'll start talking about what can we do." It's how that HIV start mess up with my life. And the whole family knew in the later stage that after, I'm sure, 10 to 11 years when I was started getting sick, you know, in the media, you know, being an HIV activist, you know, and it's how they started knowing. I think it was 2002. I lose a lot of weight. I start feeling cold. Go back to wellness clinic. I find that my CD4 count was down. It was 9. The treatment was available for people who has medical aids, who was earning, you know, more money, who didn't have more of extended family to support. They can have the accessibility to buy the drugs. But what about more people who didn't have anybody? In our government sector, they didn't have treatment. That is why I think we decided to form an action campaign to make sure that even the poor of the poorest, or the middle class of this country, get the treatment. If treatment campaign didn't do that, I think a lot of people will be dead. A lot of people will be not working. Company will be losing a lot of people in the positions to retrain again to the same position because of we never have treatment. Where I work now, I know that if somebody has a problem, I can handle it. I can sit down and listen and elaborate to the person that, you know, in the treatment situation, and to be HIV is not a taboo. To talk about HIV now is not a taboo.
What was the challenge is, even if people would still start disclosing their statuses, what was the opportunity, what was the hope for those who have started disclosing? Because there was no treatment at that time. It was even a dream. There was no treatment at that time for poor communities. There was treatment at that time for people who could afford in the private sector. Even the ones that could afford, it was too expensive to even stay on treatment for long, compared to other countries like the US and the UK, who have started long time ago, 1985, 1986. So for us, it was a dream to have access to treatment. So we started this campaign in 1998, December, on the International Human Rights Day, as a symbol that we need to start a movement for people living with HIV to fight for accessible, affordable treatment for all. So when we started, we had to challenge what blocks people from accessing treatment. First, it was policy. The policy was not conducive for people who were living with HIV. It had to be changed so that people who live with HIV also feel that they have a voice, that their government cares. Also, even if government cared and they had the policy, the nicest policy ever, but still they could not afford to buy treatment because it was way expensive for government to buy and also to give it for free, because we never at a point where South Africa, because we voted and we have a nice constitution that has, you know, enshrines rights for poor people, that we should have access to health care for free. So therefore government had to provide that health care as part of their holistic approach to fight HIV for free. My dear, anyone who goes to business, there's one motive that stands out for me, is profit. They are expensive because drug companies, they were there to make money. That's why they were patents. Because there is no logic why people would say they want to sell their products only for 20 years with no competition. Obviously, they want to have monopoly. And they want to have all the luxury to profit with no other people competing for the same product. For me, that's the only thing. And I can remember clearly in an interview where we had a picket outside GlaxoSmithKline saying that they must come out openly about how much they charge for AZT. They said they cannot give us that information. We were innocent, poor people living with HIV asking honestly how much are they charging and why they are charging that much, so that we can hear from themselves what is the justification for such high prices. They said they cannot give us that information because they know the truth is they profit over people's lives, and we lost so many lives because of those, you know, that neglect from their side.
Used in combination with other drugs, AZT was the first major breakthrough in the battle against AIDS, which until that point had been a virtual death sentence. The patent on AZT was owned by the British pharmaceutical giant GlaxoSmithKline. The New Scientist magazine reports that in 1991 alone, GlaxoSmithKline made $350 million from the sales of the drug. Yet Glaxo didn't invent the drug. It was first formulated in the 1960s in a public health research institute in the US as a potential treatment for cancer. Later, Glaxo tested a copy of the drug for efficacy as a treatment against AIDS and promptly patented the compound when it found the drug retarded the growth of the HIV virus. While the Treatment Action Campaign didn't challenge the validity of the patent, in 2002 they did challenge the high prices charged by Glaxo for the drug in South Africa.
We even took GlaxoSmithKline and Boehringer Ingelheim to the Competition Commission to openly say how much are they charging and whether their prices are fair, and is it possible that we can get generic money if they say they are fair but still, you know, it's inaccessible for poor people. Is it possible that they can open up the market so that other generic manufacturers can come up and produce generic manufacturing without royalty fees? Because that was the other challenge. Companies like Aspen and Cipla were